Hello my fellow gangsters. So if you're making a mobile game, you don't have very much memory, and normally if you instantiate and destroy prefabs, even though you destroyed them and you're not using them anymore, Unity still keeps them in memory. It just starts filling up all the memory and then the phone will start lagging really badly and then crash. So for example, if you had a menu screen and it has a bunch of pictures in it, you only need to have them loaded into memory while the game is paused and you're actually looking at the menus, right? So once you unpause and you're not looking at the pictures anymore, there's no point in keeping all that stuff in memory. So for this tutorial, we're just going to keep it really simple and just load and unload some images. So I'm going to start a new Unity project, and for this Unity project, use the universal render pipeline, 3D URP, because the core one is probably going to get deprecated soon. Memory management tutorial. So once Unity opens, I'm just going to remove the README assets for the URP tutorial because we don't need that in our project. And let's open the package manager and install Addressables. So window, package manager, Unity registry, Addressables, and install. Alright, so I'm going to make a sprites folder for the pictures, and mine are just JPG files. So the assets, right click, create folder, I'm going to call it sprites. For example pictures, you can use whatever you want. If they have a bigger file size, it will be easier to see if it's working though. So if you have some huge image, you should use that. I'm going to use 4 pictures from Julia Pla's portfolio. She's actually the artist who modeled a ladybug, which I rigged in Blender and made into a Unity asset. So it has some animations, and I wrote a script that makes it follow the position and rotation of a target transform. So you should add it to your wish list because maybe it'll go on sale sometime. Also, I have a free PDF tutorial on itch.io, which is basically my old Move a Cube tutorial combined with using the ladybug. But anyways, drag some pictures into the sprites folder, and you should probably name them with numbers so that it's clear what order they should be in. Select each picture. You can hold shift to select them all at once, and in the inspector window, change the texture type to Sprite 2D UI, and then at the bottom hit apply. So that'll make it so that we can attach them to a UI canvas in the scene. So now let's set up some UI images in the scene to display the sprites. So in the hierarchy window, click the plus symbol and UI image. I'm going to name mine image 00. And then in this inspector window thing, in the top left, click on this anchor presets thing. If you hold Alt and Shift and click the top left one, it will set the anchor point and the position of the image to the top left. And then in the scene view, if you click 2D, and then if you have the image selected and you hold your mouse over the scene view and press F, it will zoom in to where the image is so it's easier to look at. You can do whatever sizes you want because your images are probably a different shape, but my images are square shaped, so I'm going to make it 300 by 300. And then down where it has source image, sprite, you can attach the first image. Then right click the image and duplicate it and call this one image 01. And in its X position, just add the same number as its width. So for me, 300. And then let's drag the second image onto this one. And hold shift to select both of them, right click, duplicate. And rename these ones, so image 02 and image 03. And we'll move both of these down by their height, minus 300. And then we'll just attach the sprites for the last two images. Now let's make a button to load the sprites and a button to release them from memory. So I'll right click the canvas and UI button text mesh pro, and with the pop-up that comes up you can press import TMP essentials. That just makes it so the UI text will appear. And then get rid of this window and open the button and select the text, and in the inspector window we'll make it say load, and I'm going to name this button btn load, and I'll put this one onto the top right. Then let's duplicate this button. I'm going to call it button release. And make it say release. And I will move this one down to -40. I think I'll actually move the X position to -5 for both of these. And the Y position of the top button to -5. And now let's right click the asset folder and create a new folder called scripts. And then right click that and create a C# script that we will call asset loader. And just wait for that to compile. Make sure it says asset loader at the top of the script. And let's open that. And when the script opens, make sure it says asset loader at the top there. And let's just delete the update and the start methods because we don't need those. And let's create a new method called public void load asset group. And public void release asset group. So I'm just going to put a print in here, print request to load asset group, and just duplicate this. Request to release asset group. And release just means unload, so that it's not in memory anymore. So save the script and then go back to Unity. Wait a moment for the script to compile, and then let's link the buttons to the script. So let's create an empty game object to put the script on. We'll just call this asset loader. And I'm going to reset the position so it's 0, 0. And let's drag the asset loader script onto there. Then we will select the button. And down where it has on-click event, click the little plus to add a new on-click event. Drag asset loader onto that so that we have access to that script that's on there. So asset loader load asset group method. And then the same thing for button release. Drag asset loader onto the on-click event, asset loader release asset group. And don't forget to save. So now just to test it, if you have your console window open, we will press the buttons, then we'll see those print statements to make sure that worked. If you don't have the console window, just window, general, console. So load, request to load asset group, release, request to release asset group. So we know the buttons are linked up. So next, let's make the sprites into addressables. So in the projects window, select your images, these sprite images, and you can hold shift to select all of them. And where it has at the top here, it has this addressable because we installed the addressable package. So check that on. And then right beside it, click on select, and that will open this addressables groups window. You can also go to window, asset management, addressables groups. And let's create a new packed assets. and name this something like menu images. And then let's drag all the sprites out of the default group into our menu images group. And then click on this little drop down thing for labels, go to manage labels, and then click the little plus thing to create a new label. I'm just going to call it menu and save. And then click the little drop down and set it to menu for all of them. In the play mode script, click on use existing build. That will make it show more clearly in the profiler when stuff gets unloaded. The profiler is not very clear, it's not very accurate, but it seems to work better in this mode. And after you're done setting up these addressables, then you have to build them, and you have to run this build script every time you make changes to this stuff. So every time you go in here, you go to build, new build, default build script. There's a pop-up asking if you want to create a report. That will show like all the things that you currently have it as addressables. So that's optional. I'm not going to do that, but you can if you want to. So go back to this scene and let's just remove the sprites from all these images so that they don't actually exist in the scene because we're going to load them. So where it has source image here, click the little circle thing and this window opens up and just choose none. And then let's go back to the script. At the very top, underneath using Unity Engine, let's add using Unity Engine dot addressable assets and using Unity Engine dot resource management dot async operations and using Unity Engine dot UI. Then inside the class at the top we will add public asset label reference, and I'll just call it asset label, and public image, make it an array, menu images, and then private async operation handle, and we'll just call it group handle. And let's just save that. So in the scene, on the script, there's asset labels, so we're going to use asset label menu. And then inside our menu images, let's just attach each of our images to this. So there's image 0, image 1, image 2, image 3. So we have this array menu images, and then element 0 is the first one, element 1 is the next one. So we're going to load our first sprite, and then we're going to attach it to the first image over here on this sprite thing here. So let's go back to the script and go into the load asset group. First we want to check if these things have already been loaded. So we'll go if group handle dot is valid, which means it exists. It has been loaded before. So I'm going to print that we don't want to load because it's already been loaded before. So denied asset group was already loaded. Return. So load asset group, if it's already existing, then this return will just stop the code from running and it won't do any more lines. But if it hasn't already been loaded, then it's not valid, so then it'll continue and we'll do the next line. Addressables dot load assets async. And the type of asset is a sprite. And then we're going to go asset label null dot completed plus equals handle equals greater than sign, and then a curly brace, open and close, and put a little semicolon on the last one. And then inside of that we'll make a for loop for int n equals 0, n is less than handle dot result dot count n plus plus. So we're going to cycle through every single thing that it loaded, and it's going to load them in kind of a random order. We don't know which picture is going to be loading first, so we're going to check what the name of the file is that loaded, and then if it has the name of the first image, then we're going to put it onto the first element of the UI menu images, which are the UI images. So the first image we want to put onto the first UI image thing, the first sprite. So if it's called sprite00 or whatever name you used for yours, the first one, I'm going to put print loaded handle dot result, whatever one we're on, it cycles through them all. So n dot name. So we're just going to print the name of the file that loaded. If handle dot result n dot name is equal to sprite underscore 00, and also this name is going to be inside of here in the addressable address. It's got sprite underscore 00, so you might have a different name. So if it's the first sprite, then we want to attach it to the first image. So menu images element 0 dot sprite equals handle dot result n. So that's going to go to menu images 0 dot sprite. So on here, menu images, the first one, this one, the sprite. It's going to attach our image that we loaded onto there. So then we'll just do the same exact thing for all the other images. So we'll just copy this, else, paste that, and my next image is called sprite01, and we're going to put it into the second UI image, so 1. And I'll just copy this again 2 more times, 2 and 3, 2 and 3. And then at the bottom of this, I'm going to put group handle equals handle. So now group handle is valid. It just became valid now that it exists. So group is now valid. And save. So since it's valid, it will not be able to do it twice in a row, because that would probably cause it to crash or something. So if you press play here and we press load, it's got our images in the console, request to load each thing. So loaded sprite 1, sprite 2, sprite 3, then it attached them to each of the UI images thing. And if we were to press load again, denied, the asset group was already loaded. So now let's make it release them. So let's go back to the script, and this time go inside the release asset group, and we want to check if it's valid. because we don't want to try to release them if they don't exist. So if group handle dot is valid, and inside that, remove all references to the assets. So we have to remove all references that the assets exist, otherwise Unity will refuse to clear them, and they'll just stay in memory. So we'll cycle through them all. So for int n equals 0, n is less than menu images dot length n plus plus. So menu images n dot sprite equals null. So that will just turn it to null. It just removes the image from it. Just like if we went here and clicked on none, it just does that basically. And then we will unload addressables dot release group handle. The group is no longer valid because it no longer exists. It's cleared from memory, or at least it should be if it works. Print group released. And we'll do an else. So if the stuff is not valid, then we can't try to unload it. So print denied. Asset group doesn't exist. Save that and go back to Unity. Go to Window, Analysis, Profiler, and this guy in the profile modules just have memory on, and just have the texture memory showing, and make sure that this red button is on and it's in play mode. So now when we play, this should show how much memory is being used roughly. It's not very accurate, but it should show that the memory goes down when we clear things. So now when you press play, so this is how much memory it's just using by default. Now we load the images in, it jumps up, and when we release them, it drops back down. So load, release. And you can see we started with whatever, 242, it went up to 264, drops back down to 242. And if we try to release it twice in a row, we should get a message, denied, asset group doesn't exist. So this is good. We would only be using up memory for the pictures when we're actually in the menu screen where we're looking at them. And then when we quit and go back to playing the game and close the menu, then we also clear up that space instead of just bogging it down. Peace out, my fellow gangsters. By the way, link below, use my affiliate link. Unity is having a sale called the Dev Days of Summer sale that lasts for 3 weeks starting this week. And each week they're going to put about 100 different assets on sale for 50% off. The Dev Days Summer sale begins on July 26th. Peace out.